Hey guys, what is up? Sora here, back with another Soul Calibur 6 video, and today is a day that we're going to be going over frame data. Now, I waited to publish this video for a while simply because there wasn't a lot of frame data available for all characters. But then, a magical day happened where ScuffleDev 3K published the frame data app for Soul Calibur 6 in PC. This tool is super helpful. I cannot say more than enough things about it, especially someone who enjoys his time in the lab. So big shout outs to ScuffleDev. Links in the description on the app itself to the Reddit thread. And please show this man your love. I don't even know if he's a man or a woman, but please show ScuffleDev your love. It's an amazing tool. He should be revered as a hero to the Soul Calibur 6 community at this point. It's a super good tool. Please use it. So today we're going to be going over all of this frame data that is now available to us. Now, he or Scuffle would say by himself or herself that this frame data is not all accurate, particularly in stances. Like, it becomes wonky in a lot of stance stuff, but for about 80% of the moves in the game is pretty accurate. So we're going to be going over, like, okay, what does this all mean? Like, what does impact mean, block, so on and so forth. With all that being said, let's get started. Alright, so what does this frame data all mean? Like, it's great, right? Like, everyone says it's great. All the pros are saying it's great. But what makes it great? So we're going to be going over all of the things that, well, most of the things that you're going to see on this frame data overlay. And we're going to be breaking into tiny little bits and pieces what all this data means and what it should mean for you totally in the game. It's a lot of numbers, so there has to be some translation to what actually effect these numbers have in combat. So, assuming that you have played fighting games for a little bit now at the very least, you might have heard the idea of frames. Now, this is going to sound basic to a lot of you, but I want to make sure that we're starting all off in the right foot. Every single move in the game, even movement, has a set number of frames to it. There's 60 frames per second, as you guys probably have heard already. And for example, Ivy's A to come out, it takes a total of 12 impact frames to come out. That's what Soul Calibur calls its kind of like, what does it in 2D? Like startup frames, I guess, in 2D fighters. That's the equivalent of startup frames in 2D fighters. In Soul Calibur, you call it impact frames. So for me, from the start of my press, for 12, barring any delays, it'll take 12 frames to come out with the A button. Next is the block. The block hit rows here. So I'm going to set... actually, you know what? Not yet. Let's say I hit Taki with the A button again. Right now, oh, let me cycle that. Okay, there's the A button data. So the A button data shows that its impact frames is 12, and then its hit frames are -2. So this is actually negative on hit, if you guys didn't know. Normally you see like A8, so that becomes +2, right? But for example, a common IV buffer would be A into Summon Suffering. That's technically negative, but we're gonna go over that later. The block frames are more important here, because on block it's actually -8. So let's put her on block here. Block, where is it? There we go. So on block, that's actually 8. So technically, it's Taki's turn whenever she blocks that. Let's take a easier example, like 3K. That's -6. So every time she blocks that, technically it's now Taki's turn in order to swing with her own AA, her own K, whatever. Some of those fast buttons that you normally see, right? So there's the difference between block and hit. Next, let's go over, as I reset these settings, let's go over, like, okay, you went over on block and on hit, but what does that actually mean? Like, what does -2 mean versus -20, right? So this is -17 on block, this is minus 26 on block. Like, okay, that's great and all, but what does it actually mean? So I'm going to go over the block frames particularly because that kind of leads into punishes, the more universal tactic in fighting games. If you think about 3B, for example, your typical launcher, most launchers in the game are punishable to varying degrees. Ivy's particularly is very, very punishable. It's minus 17. Now, I say to varying degrees, right? But what do those varying degrees actually look like? Well, for example, minus 12 is slightly punishable. That's mostly punishable by AAs. Anything below minus 12, like, or anything better than minus 12, like minus 11, minus 10, minus 9, like, there are technically impact frame 10s in the game, but for the most part, you can consider those safe. Now, moving on to the next level, which is minus 16. What is a minus 16 move by Ivy? No, that's way too unsafe. Dang. I can't think of a minus 16 move. I think they're minus 14, minus 16. Okay, fine. I'll take this. So, minus 14, minus 16 technically becomes more unsafe because if you take a minus 16 move, then you're able to punish it with this now, which leads into a natural combo, which leads to a knockdown. So it's not technically launcher punishable yet, but minus 14, minus 16 around that range, you're going to be looking at like, okay, that move is definitely punishable. This, stuff like this, anything that is like minus 16 or minus 17 and above, especially this, once you get to the minus 20 range, that definitely is super punishable. Like, those are the moves that you should be punishing every single time, because they lead to huge damage. You get launcher punishes off of it, sometimes you even get lethal hit punishes off of it, so make sure that you know every single character, or at least most of the characters, minus 16, minus 17 and up moves. If it's worse than that, definitely punish that every single time. A little bit of a note here, I do not have, as of the filming of this video, I do not yet have the hard data for backstep as well as sidestep in this game. I wanted to cover it, but unfortunately I don't think anyone has quite figured it out yet. I might revisit those in a future video or make an addendum to this video, but for right now, for the sake of this discussion, I'm not going to go over like, okay, how many steps is this and how can I punish this, right? Or how many frames is this step and how can I punish it? We don't have the hard data yet. I don't want to confuse you guys with inaccurate data. Last couple of things here before we move on to the next section. Other than impact, attack, block, hit, there's also this LNC kind of thing. Let me actually reset settings here. There's this LNC kind of thing where it stands for launcher. That means that when it's a launcher, I can generally hit something after it. With Ivy, that's 68. There's also knockdown. There should be a knockdown candy here. Is this there we go. KND means knockdown. It means very, very similar to launcher. There's usually a follow-up associated to it, but just a different interaction that the game recognizes. And I think that is it. Like I said, I already mentioned, for this particular app, whenever you're dealing with any sort of stance, like Ivy Serpent's Embrace, please do test those separately. It is not accurate. Scuffle has already said this by himself. Just because this is based off of the Tekken version of this frame data app, so even then it had its own fair share of problems right there. But yeah, that pretty much covers frame data in a nutshell. Let's move on to the next section. Okay, so now that we know what all those numbers mean, right? What do they really mean? And by that I mean, how do I actually use this app in training mode? There's a lot of numbers here, but in a normal match you don't really get to see those numbers at all. Especially if you're playing locally or in a tournament. Like, you're not going to be given the gift of frame data right in your face. So how do I use this right now while I have access to this data? That way I'm ready for tournaments in the future. And the first and primary use of this is figuring out what's real or not. What do I mean by that? That's a phrase that's commonly used by a lot of players. What What that means really is this move unsafe? Is this move punishable on block? Is this move even negative on hit? There are a lot of moves like that. For example, to 1-4B, that's negative on hit. It's when I hit Taki up close with this, there's actually like options that I can do there, or options she can do there where she can punish me regardless of whether I hit her or not. So there's that. How I go about using this frame data app, like in a very micro sense, is I take a move that gives me problems, and then I test the crap out of it in trading mode. So, for example, Taki's possession A. You already guys saw that I recorded the possession A already. But let me actually go through that process again. That way, you guys could get to see the frames of the move. So, let me do this. Oops. Let me reset that. Okay, there you go. So that last line, line 690, shows the frame data of possession A. Possession A is a 12 impact move, 12 startup. It's a high attack. It is -16 on block, so it means that it's fairly punishable. And -4 on hit. Now that -4 on hit seems bad, but the use case of this is typically on counter hit. Like it's trying to catch step, right? And it's very good at that job. Once you catch step, you eat about 70% damage, or 70 damage, not 70%, but 70 damage, give or take. So it's a really, really good move, used by a lot of talkies both online and offline. So how do you counter that? Well, the first thing and foremost is it's -16 on block. So if I do this, and this pre-recorded to already block immediately after possession A, right? So right there, I'm not even thinking about 6xp. 6xp I know is 16. I know that for a fact. So as soon as that comes out, I'm already buffering in 6xp. That way, I know my move is going to come out on the first frame every single time. The danger of like not buffering it in is you might find yourself delayed and then you miss the punish. And 6xp itself is punishable by 12. So it's punishable by her own AA. And with Taki's case, she actually gets something better. So I want to make sure that every time this comes out, I'm ready with a punish. And the game is pretty generous with that. You shouldn't be missing those all too frequently unless the game gets really chaotic. So that's number one use of training mode. Number two use of training mode in the frame data app for me is going to be going over slightly plus, slightly minus, and neutral moves on block. And this is fairly advanced already. It's not part of the basic series, but it should be noted by a lot of players. So Ivy, again, this move is +0 on block and +8 on hit. Let me actually turn back recording. So it's +0 on block, +8 on hit. The fact that it's +0 on block means that after this I can move. I can move pretty freely, actually. Knowing that, I can get to steal turns. A lot of talkies in this scenario will probably swing with, I don't know, BB, maybe. I'm gonna keep it simple, right? Or 6xp. Let's record that. Because they want to catch me. I'm this far. They're probably gonna want to 6xp me right around this range, right? Right? So, assuming that 6xp is happening here, I actually have so much time to step. Right? So, this move is particularly handy for finding those kind of low risk moves, I want to say. I'm going to call it that. Like those moves that are slightly negative. Like -2 to -4-ish, give or take. That's what you would play around with. Neutral, so 0 on block. And then +2 to +4. Because you can use those to steal turns. Sophitia is actually pretty notorious for that. Because a lot of her moves end in -2. Here's the thing. Even though it's technically your turn, a lot of Ivy's moves... Let's take Ivy's B, for example, right? Ivy's B is 16 frames. Sophie does a -2 move. But her 2A is 12 frames impact. So technically she's doing a 14 frame move, even if she mashes it out, which still beats my 16. So, it's really, quite frankly, effed up. That's the strength of Sophie, is that she can seemingly put on a lot of pressure at once, because the tendency is to B, but you shouldn't be Bing, because it's still her turn if she does 2A. So look for those moves. And even my own 3K, Ivy's 3K, I would be looking out for that move, because while I can't press anything after, I can step. I can step pretty easily. I can even backstep. I have enough time to backstep from max range, avoiding her 8-way run move. That's insane. That's insane to me that I have all this time to backstep, and backstep is already very, very slow. So look out for those moves. -2, -4, -6, something along those lines. +2, +4, +6, something along those lines. There's not a lot of +6. There's not a +6 except for maybe that. And that's, everyone knows that's plus on block. You're not going to get to fool anyone by that. But this, that's very, very deceptive. Extremely deceptive in terms of what you can do with it. It's very, very deceptive. So know that. Find those moves in your command list. Kind of like cycle through your command list, I would even say. And see like, okay, what can I kind of get in terms of just going away from the traditional, oh, I'm minus on block, I have to block. Or I'm plus on hit, I have to attack now. Or that move that she just did was minus on block, it's my turn now. No, it's not that simple. It's a 3D game. There is a lot more than just being minus or plus on block in this game. When you have those like low negatives, low positives, be on the lookout for those, because those can set you apart from the rest of your competition. With all that being said, thank you guys for watching. This has been Sora. If you guys have any questions for me about Soul Calibur, about the Combat Basics series, please feel free to comment down below or tweet at me at hitbox_Sora. I'll be happy to answer your questions for you guys. There's about 2, maybe 3 more videos in this series that are going to come out, so keep on the lookout for that. But until then, thank you guys again for watching. Catch you guys later. Peace.